sure I reach out and see if they want an order again for the next year.
Welcome everybody to the Food Entrepreneur Growth Summit, and specifically welcome to our panel on how to take your food business full-time. I am so excited about this session. I know a lot of our audiences as well. We have a few amazing entrepreneurs with us, and we're going to have a Q&A style session where I'm going to ask them questions, they're going to answer, but we're going to keep an eye out for some questions from you all as well. So if you have questions about going full-time or something pops into your mind as you hear them talk about their stories, definitely drop it in that Q&A session section of the panel below. I'll keep an eye on that and make sure to surface that as we go. So with that, I'm Anna. I lead growth at Cast Iron, and I'm so excited to have Elizabeth, Holly, and Sarah with me to talk about their journeys. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you all and have you tell the audience a little bit about your background and your businesses. All right, who wants to start?
I don't care, I'll start.
Great.
Just jump on it. All right, my name is Sarah and I'm the owner of Cookies by Sarah. I've always enjoyed baking, but my actual background in education is in teaching. So I taught deaf education for 6 years. I have a master's degree in it, and I left all of that behind to spend my days in the kitchen. I'm also, it's important to know about me that I am that type of person who sees something and instead of buying it, will go and spend all the money in the world to buy all the supplies and learn how to make it, because it can't be that hard, at least in my mind. So that's where my need for cookies came in. My daughter was making her first communion and I was like, I really want cookies. It can't be that hard to do. So I scoured Pinterest for a couple recipes, tried my hand at it. Family and friends raved about them. And it wasn't long after that people were like, so are you selling cookies? And I told myself I will never do it. It's too much stress. And a couple of years later, I gave in, and I started my business in May of 2021. And then I went full-time in June. I gave in my 2 weeks notice at teaching, and this is my life now.
Great. Elizabeth or Holly, does someone want to go next?
Sure, I'll go next. My name is Elizabeth. I am the owner and founder of Pour Some Sugar on It. I am Connecticut based, but as a licensed bakery, I'm able to ship nationwide. I'm also a board certified dance movement therapist. So I work, I have experience working in psychiatry, and I'm a mom of 3 kids. Very similar story to Sarah's. I happened to use my great grandmother's sugar cookie recipe. So it was passed down from generations. So I watched my mom every holiday make these cookies, and I learned from her. I do have to say I took it to the next level in terms of decorating skills. Sorry, Mom. But I had brought these cookies to an event with some friends, and I had a friend ask me why I'm not selling them. And I thought to myself, you know what, like, why am I not selling them? I never thought about it. And that's kind of how my business took off. I was doing it very part-time at first, you know, order by order, maybe a couple of months. And I progressively watched my sales increase, and I got to the point where I was like, I can do this full time. So I took the risk, and I've been full time about 6 or 7 months now.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay, Holly, you're up.
Are you ready for me? Okay, I'm Holly. My company is called Marcenet Mercantile. I started out actually as a performing songwriter, and I would tour internationally, usually with my 3-year-old daughter in tow. And then I got rheumatoid arthritis and lost my singing voice. So I had to figure out something else to do. Come 2016, after the election, I was motivated, as many people were, to get involved in politics. And so then I became a political consultant and worked for quite some time with congressional candidates, and then after the 2020 election, my husband became ill with AML. It's a the deadliest form of leukemia that you can get. And for about a year and a half, he went through so many rounds of chemotherapy and so much treatment, and we almost lost him several times. And finally, he had a stem cell transplant, which seemed to take. But he still required a lot of care, and it was really clear he wasn't going to be able to go back to work. He was a sleep medicine physician and also a critical care doctor who went and took care of patients during COVID. So it was like, we're still in the middle of COVID. He couldn't work. He still can't work. I had to figure out something to do. So March of 2022, I just said, I'm gonna start baking, I guess. I like to bake. What can I do? He's still, required care. I need to stay home. I had to come up with a home-based business. So yeah, that's what I do now. I started in March, and by July, we had recovered all of the initial expense of the business. And then it's just been kind of crazy ever since then. And we were full-time pretty much from the beginning.
Yeah, well, that's a great transition into our next question. But first of all, thank you all for sharing your story. It's always inspiring to hear where people come from and why they ended up in this business. But it's a good jumping off point to say, what was that moment for all of you to say, I'm going to take this full time? What was that like for you, maybe psychologically? Were you feeling excited, afraid? Tell us a little bit about that moment for you where you decided this is going to be my career.
I have to say, I was terrified. I made the jump on a low month or a not so busy month. So I felt like it was a huge risk. I was doing it in the spring, and I mean, we have Easter as cookiers, right? So that's a pretty popular holiday. But if you don't have, say birthdays or other special events, I do a lot of baptisms, a lot of christening, communions, things like that. But yeah, so I took the risk on a month that wasn't booming, and just hope and prayed that I was going to get through and figure it out. But I happened to be and this took a lot of time for me. It wasn't like this at the beginning of my business, but I make sure I document and write down all of my business expenses and how much money I was bringing in. And I noticed that I was at least doubling every single month. So I was like, this is going somewhere. Even on slow months, I was noticing an increase even from the year before. So that was combining, looking at the numbers and taking that risk. I was like, I got to do it.
For me, I moved states in 2021, in July of 2021, actually. So I kind of started my business in New York, where I was born and raised, and I decided to follow the sunshine and move to Florida, not knowing a single person but my boyfriend. I had accepted a teaching job and I was teaching down here, but I quickly learned that teaching is definitely not the same down here as it is up north. And I was just so burnt out, like going to work. I dreaded going to work all the time. I would do cookies at nighttime. Like I felt like I was working almost 24/7 trying to balance teaching and cookies. And as I just started building my Instagram and getting my name out there, like the amount of requests that were coming in, I was, even being part-time, I was already matching like my teaching income. So with a swift kick in the butt from my boyfriend, he's like, you are so unhappy, just do it. Like, we can make it work. So when the school year ended, I was like, all right, that's it. Like closing the chapter on my teaching career for now. And we're going to give this a try, because if I don't want to regret it. So that's kind of how I jumped. I was like, I'm making the money. I have the interest, and I hate turning people down.
Yeah.
I have the opportunity to take down some last minute orders.
Yeah.
I still turn people down, but you know.
Yeah. For me, like I said, it's kind of an accidentally full-time kind of thing. I had most of the equipment that I needed because I was dabbling in chocolatiering and chocolate making and baking for a long time before I opened Marcenet. But I started with 4 different types of cookies and 4 different kinds of bonbons. I told my Twitter followers that I was shifting away from politics, so here, have some cookies. And I started with 20 orders, and we've been averaging like 10 to 20 orders per week since then. And then, you know, for holidays is quite a bit more, but it's just this constant. It's hard for me to keep up sometimes. I'm sure everybody can knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I think Elizabeth said something that was really interesting to me is she was thinking about going full time, which kind of leads me into my next question, which is it can be really scary for a lot of people. We hear this from our owners a lot. There's a lot of uncertainty around lack of predictability, particularly when it comes to business flow and finances. Is there anything you all did before you decided to take that leap that made you more comfortable that you would recommend to people that are thinking about going full time?
Yeah, so something that stood out for me, and I didn't necessarily do this initially, but especially with cookies and with you know, custom orders that were birthday parties or things that happen yearly. I made it a point to personally reach out to all of these customers and say, hey, I see your son's turning 6 this year. I did his cookies last year. I love doing this design, blah, blah, blah. Would you like to place an order for cookies this year? I would make sure I reached out to those customers personally. And, you know, if I got another order from them that only gained momentum from, you know, reaching out to everybody else and making sure. So that's something that I definitely make sure I do monthly, because, you know, I do have really good relationships with a lot of my customers. So I make sure I reach out and see if they want an order again for the next year.
That's really smart. I should probably do that.
It took me a little while. And like I said, like when I started my business, I was like writing things down in a planner, like so disorganized. And once I found like a really good, you know, computer system and keeping things organized and sending out emails and reminders that things are coming up, it definitely has helped.
Yeah, email marketing is definitely going to be like my push for next year. Like when I went full time, like I feel like I've done a million different like side hustles, small businesses throughout my adult career. Like I've done Beachbody, I've done Etsy shops, I've made tumblers, I've made t-shirts. Like I feel like I've done it all. And I was like, I never went full time because I'm like, it's scary. Like you leave a job that you have insurance and a steady income, and you're like, crap.
Yes.
What happens if I don't? So my biggest thing was just like building up a savings, like before I made that jump, to make sure I could at least pay bills for 3 to 5 months, you know, just what happens if I have a slow month and I can't pay my bills? Like at least I have something put aside for that. Working out a budget was important too. I mean, nobody likes to talk about money, but like having a system in place to like funnel your money and all that kind of stuff. That's something else that was super important.
Yeah, definitely. I in terms of the budget too, like I when I first started, I was like gung-ho on getting all of the latest cutters and newest equipment and all of this stuff. And now that I'm established and I have enough cutters, I rarely have to order some for orders, but you know, cutting costs wherever I could. And like I said, I work in a commercial kitchen, so all of the equipment is very massive. So I'll make tons of dough at once, and freeze and just you know, cut costs wherever I can.
Right.
I didn't do any of that stuff. That would have been really smart.
I don't think you really had a choice. You worked with what you had.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we when we finally talked about it, it was literally me saying, I think I'm gonna bake. I found cast iron, I set up my shop, and then I decided what I was gonna put in the shop, and then I started baking, and then there was no forethought to any of it. But when we finally did, my husband and I finally did talk about, if this is gonna be a business, what we need to, make it legit, make it so that excuse me, so that we can so that we're not going to regret a lot of these decisions later on. And so we just decided, we're going to spend more than we're going to make this first year. We just are, because what I do is there's a lot of really expensive equipment and really expensive ingredients that go into it. So we broke even basically this first year, and we're looking to make a profit next year, but this year was kind of a wash, and we just knew that it would be.
I'm just about breaking even. Like, I implemented a new budget like the last 2 weeks of December, and I was like, okay, starting January, this is what I'm doing, and I'm going to stick to it and see if that line in a couple months is red or green. And I mean, time will only tell. Like, I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing most days, but when I really went full time, I seriously had no idea what I was doing. Like, I'm trying to figure out taxes this year and all that stuff, and it's a lot.
It is a lot. It's so much.
But I think it's worth it to like not have the Sunday scaries anymore. Like, I go to bed on Sunday and I wake up on Monday because I'm excited. Like, I don't have
right
anxiety over. I have anxiety over my orders, of course, but like it's totally different than teaching.
It's a different kind of anxiety because you have the control over it.
Mhm.
You can slow it down if you need to. You can say things are out of stock if you need to, like focus on one thing. You can pull back and you don't have to answer to anybody but you. And I think that's the thing that I like most about it is like, there's no deadline and I don't have to report to, a congressman who's wondering where the comms are for my, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's better for me. It is definitely better.
Oh yeah. I remember when I first started, I felt like I had to take any order that came in, no matter the design, no matter the, when they needed it by. I just felt like I had to do it. And I got to the point where I was like, I can't do that anymore. I can't function on no sleep. And also I was doing sets that I didn't like. And I was like, this is taking the creativity out of this, and going full time and having the ability to kind of like say no, or say, tell them for like another baker that might want to do it, has been really, really nice. Not doing those sets that I don't want to do.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. Well, we had some questions come in based on some of the stuff you all have been saying, which is great. So first one is a pretty specific question. Do you all use any programs to keep track of the customer purchases to send them reminder type emails?
I use cast iron, of course. I think I started my cast iron shop sometime in late January last year. So I've been on it about a year. But I'm pretty sure they're rolling out a feature soon where you can actually download all of your past orders and things like that. But I also I have a digital planner and I write down all my orders from there. But as far as email addresses and all that, it's all in cast iron. That's
me too. I send the majority of my emails through cast iron. Customers check out on cast iron. Customers submit their custom order inquiries on cast iron. There's a calendar. What else am I thinking?
It's just so easy. Everything's right
there. It is. And I'm gradually transitioning from another program that I used prior to cast iron. So it is, I'm like right in limbo between completely using it, because I do have a lot of information on that other program. So it's been taking me a little while to get there, but it's been phenomenal.
I'd say if you're just starting out, definitely put something in place, because when I moved and I started taking orders, I was taking all of them through Instagram DMs. I was accepting all my payments through Venmo, and I would just write them in my planner. And I think I had more anxiety thinking I was going to forget something than or like finding the message, finding the person. Like it was the biggest pain in the butt. Yeah. So find like, I chose cast iron because it literally was so easy to set up that it took me no time. But find something that works for you and just put it all in there sooner rather than later.
I have an assistant that sometimes takes care of my social media stuff. And when I got to a point where I was getting so many DMs about orders, and there was just, I wasn't getting some of the messages, and there was just miscommunication all around, that I was like, you need to go to my website, and then I would direct them to cast iron and put in a custom order form. Like I wasn't doing any more DMs, because like you said, they get lost, and you're like, oh, what was the name of the customer again? What was it? Facebook? Was it Instagram? Was it email? It was just way too much.
Like, give me your email, I'll send you an invoice, and it just collects everything.
Yes.
Easy.
Everything is right there. Like even through cast iron, you can have them put in photos, inspo photos, what they're looking for. And I'm like, rather than going through a zillion messages back and forth, it's like right there in one thing.
When I have to send a quote and they can't upload their pictures, those are the ones that I'm like, crap, I have to go back and find everything, and it just takes me so much more time. But you know, small things, little things.
Well, I love it. Love to hear all of that, and definitely want to plug our product and engineering team. So for those that joined the keynote, Mark did mention in the next few months, we'll be having order reservations and also enhanced reporting. So you'll be able to download the orders and then automatically send an invitation to reserve a future reservation. We call it pencil me in, same concept, which is, we've done this before. Do you have something coming up? Why don't we pencil you in now to help with your planning? So very exciting that coming. Okay, so we can keep going. What was the biggest surprise you've encountered since going full time? That's an interesting one.
Surprise?
How freaking expensive it was. I was really surprised. Because when I started, it seemed like eggs were way cheaper, way cheaper. And now they're super expensive. And it's not just the eggs, right? It's the chocolate is way more expensive, and shipping is more expensive. And I think some of these things are coming down now as the markets kind of equalize, but man, that's rough. That was surprising to me.
Yeah, I think when I start, like, how much time you actually spend doing things, like, I guess I never really considered how much time I was spending while I had a full-time job. But now that I do this full-time, I'm like, my day flies by, and I'm like, I feel like I got nothing that I wanted to accomplish done, but yet I did so much other stuff, like the admin work, the posting on Instagram, the coming up with, like, it's more than a full-time job now.
It is.
Yeah. And going full-time, you like you had mentioned, Sarah, you wear a lot of hats, right? Oh, yeah. So you are the CEO, you are the marketing manager, you are the baker, like, you name it, you're doing everything. And there's not enough time in the day.
I am always on my phone, and I feel bad. Like,
yeah,
my boyfriend and my daughter are like, put your phone away. Like, what are you doing? Like, can you just pay attention to me? Like, I'm sorry, I was looking at an invoice, or I'm doing this, and I'm trying to get this done. Like, just give me 5 minutes.
Yeah. I think what surprised me was how many cookies I could actually get done in a day.
Yes.
I was a night shift baker when I first started. I would work at the hospital during the day, and I would do my orders at night, and it'd be like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'd be getting into bed. So I knew how long it took me, but now that I have everything like really streamlined, I can tell you how, it takes me 10 minutes to make the dough. It takes me this much to roll it out and cut it out. It's, like I have everything down to a T where I'll know, oh, I can get 300 cookies done in this amount of time. Everything's really, really kind of planned out, but I was surprised that I was like, oh, wow, I can do a lot more. Obviously.
Yeah, I've been really good about like timing myself and paying attention to that starting this year. And I'm like, okay, like 16 dozen, I can bake on Monday, have them all decorated by Thursday, bagged on Friday, ready for pickup. And then my weekend is free. I'm like, if I can keep that like consistency, like I would have a much better work-life balance.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So December is a whole nother issue. Like I will pull all-nighters in December.
Oh yeah. December is a whole other
monster.
Yes.
Lack of better words.
Yes.
Love it. Love it. Okay. We've had a few other questions come in around licensing and taxes. Okay. When did you all get licensed and how did you think about taxes in your first year?
So in Florida, you don't need a license to be a cottage food. I can't talk. A cottage food baker or establishment. So I think our cap is like $250,000. Like it's pretty generous. Taxes, I found a tax guy and I mean, we're still working on that. I sent him everything. So fingers crossed, I don't owe a ton, but we'll see how the cookie crumbles this year for that. And it's learn as you go. I mean, you're going to make mistakes.
Yeah. Let me think. So in Connecticut, our I know our cottage bakery license, the cap just increased from 25,000 a year to 50. So they were able to double it. But when I had moved from New Jersey up to Connecticut right before COVID had hit, and I was making too much money for a cottage bakery. So I knew I had to be licensed. But finding a commercial kitchen to work out of was a huge hassle. Finding one that had enough time for me to get everything done. And as working with sugar cookies, they take a long time to dry. So it wasn't like I could go in there, make the dough, bake it, decorate it, and package it all in one day. I needed somewhere where I could go in the next day or even the day after. So in conjunction with getting my license up here, I had and I still have a very large corporate order that I do monthly. That order allowed me to purchase an Eddy printer. If you know what those are, I got that within the first month I got this. So I do this for them and I ship out the cookies. So I needed to be a licensed bakery in the state in order to ship anything. So yes.
And in my state, Washington State, the cap is 25,000. And so we just got that license in March, and then we ended up doubling that. So now we're getting a commercial license because we can't be a cottage food anymore. So so there's a lot of licensing that goes into that, and so the commercial aspect of it we're still trying to figure out. But the taxes, a lot of the tax headache is alleviated by cast iron because they take out taxes. You can actually opt for them to take the taxes out, and then, or you don't have to, you can end up paying the taxes on your own on the back end. So we just sent all of our spreadsheets and all of our Excel files to an accountant and said, here, you guys figure it out. And that's how we did our taxes this year.
Pay someone that knows what they're doing, because it's honestly not the headache of trying to figure it out yourself.
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
All right. Unfortunately, we're coming up to time, even though we have so many questions. So we are furiously going to try to follow up with all of you to make sure that you get those questions answered. Lots of great questions around shipping and pricing. And we'll make sure to share the questions with our panelists to see if they have answers, and then we can do our best on the cast iron side as well. So with that, I want to thank you, Elizabeth, Holly, and Sarah, for all of your amazing insight. It was great to learn from you. And I will drop a link to the next session in the chat below so that you can continue to join us for our next panel. Looks like Emily did it for me. Thank you, Emily. So definitely make sure to check that one out and make sure to follow along with Elizabeth, Holly, and Sarah to get inspired on their full-time journeys. Thank you all. See you soon.
Bye.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you.
bye.